Okay, so just for everyone's understanding, I asked for my segment to be audio recorded. So I think everyone's muted, but please don't interrupt. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you want, either via email or during the Q&A session. So let's get to it. I was asked to talk a little bit about the legislature and lobbying generally. Because of the format, I'm going to say most of my questions that I'll ask will be rhetorical, and I'm going to keep moving and keep the program going and make sure everybody here gets the information that you signed up for. That said, if you have questions after this, email me or email NYSCRA. My email is on the nyscra.org site, and it's christopherday227 at gmail.com. Uh, as for what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to go over a very fast review of government, and then we're going to talk about a few of the different things that have happened in New York State in the last 10 years. And then we're going to touch gently on how you are the future. And then we're going to get into some examples of what not to do in your political writing. There's going to be a handout. If you don't get it after this webinar, then shoot me an email. But it's going to be sent to you after the webinar. So we're going to teleport you all back to high school and middle school right now and touch on the three branches of government: executive, judicial, and legislative. Executive enforces the law. These are things like your president, your governor, your mayor, and the executive agencies under them, like the Department of Labor, the Department of State, the NYPD. A lot of the frontline stuff that we think of when we think of the government is the executive branch. Judicial. Judicial interprets the law. When the law is on your side and you're arrested, what do? You fight the case in court. When the law is on your side and someone's not paying you or violating your rights and the executive branch isn't helping, what do? You sue. You take them to court. Sometimes there are judicial cases, like in the Court of Appeals, People v. Smith, that outline how important our job is for people, or cases like the Postmates decision from the Court of Appeals that talked about how the employer controls the customer. These kinds of decisions can impact us or define the law more for New Yorkers, but we generally don't have direct impact in these cases unless one of us is giving testimony to the court. Now, legislative, which is our main focus for this program. What does the legislature do? They write the laws. Our federal legislature, the people who write federal laws, are our Congress. Our federal legislature, the people who write, is bicameral, and it's the Senate and the House of Representatives. So there are two parts of the legislature, and they both have to pass a law for it to go on to the executive branch to be signed. We have the same thing here in New York State. Our legislature is bicameral. We have the state Senate and the state Assembly. If you want to pass a law, you have to convince legislators from both to vote for it. So let's say that you're John Doe Fast Fingers and you want to propose a law. What do? Stop and think about that for a second. Maybe some of you have done it before. You write your legislators. Maybe you've done that before and it didn't do anything for you. Maybe your legislator said, "Thanks for your comments," and it got swept under the next big event. That's the end, right? Sad day for you, can't change the system. Well, that's where an association can be very helpful for a group of people. In our case, NYSCRA is that association for stenographic court reporters. Associations and their members focus on educating consumers, educating other practitioners, and educating lawmakers where appropriate. So, the consumers you can think of as customers, lawyers. Sometimes the agency is your consumer. Practitioners, sometimes an agency, court reporting agency can be considered a practitioner, but largely it's the reporters. That's one of the reasons we have mentoring, for example, educating practitioners. So, who here knew, for example, and this is getting on into what I said when I said I'm going to get into what's happened in the last 10 years, that we have on our New York State law books something that guarantees a stenographer must be paid. There's General Business Law 399cc. That makes it the responsibility of the attorney who requests the record to pay for it. And a funny fact on that law, there are actually two General Business Law 399cc's. One has to do with telephones and the other has to do with us, and they're both still on the law books today. So, what about when our jobs are threatened? A lot of people in the public sector here in New York have a union. They say the union will handle it. That's what we pay them for, right? Of course. I'm a member of a union, and there's no reason not to expect a union to fight for you. But if a change in the law could impact your job, wouldn't you want as many people as possible stepping up for you? Wouldn't you want multiple organizations weighing in and trying to help? I'm not going to sit here and tell you it always works out. I'll even give you an example. They wanted to bring recording into workers' compensation. A bill was put up to the legislature to make sure that they used stenographic court reporters. The unions and the association got that bill all the way through both parts of our legislature, and then the governor vetoed it, and that was about 2013. What about court jobs? A bill was put up to ensure stenographic reporters were used in the court before mechanical recording, and that didn't go through, but the association continues. You have to remember that a loss one year does not equal a loss for all time. What about victories? 2015-ish, we had what I call the CART bill. We got it written into law that one of the things that a person can request if they have a hearing impairment is a stenographer for communication access. And these are all in your handout, by the way, so don't feel like you're going to be left in the dark there. So now you may be sitting there and saying, well, sounds like the association does a lot of legislative work on courts. I'm going to be freelance. This doesn't affect me. It's everything. It's every part of the work we do. And when we need to, we get together and we fight things that we need to fight together. So when we need to, if we need to, we'll hire a lobbyist to help us educate the legislature before they make a decision. Sometimes there's no education required. For example, a bill was coming out in the state Senate that would have reclassified many freelancers as employees. A lot of freelancers don't like that idea. They want to stay freelancers. The bill died, or it seems to be dying on its own. We don't need to do anything. It didn't even get proposed in the assembly. But the fact is that we were there, and this association was there to do whatever it needed to do. This time, and sometimes, it's an association's job to kind of keep quiet and let things roll off. And now here's where you come in. Our board is a volunteer board. We're people just like you. We're mostly working reporters or educators, and we're deciding the best use of the money. Some of that money goes into management. Can't help that. Have to make sure everything's done by the book and done properly. We on the board pay into our association dues, and we don't personally profit off those. So I'll say this really strongly so everybody understands. Our strength, like Joshua said earlier, is directly tied to how many people buy a membership. If everybody in this state buys a membership tomorrow, our power skyrockets. Our ability to respond to threats against the profession is at an all-time high. And if very few people buy it, we got to do the best we can with what we've got. So when you're out in the working world, your continued support of this association makes a difference every single day. You might not see it, or you might not necessarily feel it, but I want you to remember that your support matters every single day. So, and in terms of that support, if you can't afford a membership right now, that's fine. You hop on our Facebook, you get involved that way. Share information with each other. Volunteer for something. There's no limit on you. You could tell us what you're good at. I want to hear it, and you can email me and tell me what you're good at. And seriously, consider getting involved, because about 10 years ago, I was sitting in your seat listening to somebody talk on and on and on about how one day my class would be running the field. And I rolled my eyes, like some of you probably just did, and I said, yeah, right, whatever. And yeah, right, whatever, myself right into being on the board and talking to all of you. So I'm here today to tell you that this can be a lifelong and wonderful career if you view it that way. If that's the frame of mind you put yourself in, you'll be right here running the field in 10 years, either through association leadership, through volunteer work, owning a business, or just being great reporters, or some combination. There's no limit on you, kind of like I think Karen said. So, but as in regard to CAT software. Did anyone catch what I just said about frame of mind, though? If you put yourself in that frame of mind to be a leader, you're going to be one. So I'd actually like to take a minute or two to discuss frame of mind and do a quick exercise with everybody. We're going to do it, obviously, video off, audio off. You don't even have to do it if you don't want to. You can walk away, whatever. But I think this really illustrates my beliefs about frame of mind. I think everybody should do it once in their life. So get your phone, get a mirror, or whatever. You look directly into it, okay, so you can see yourself. You smile as wide as you can, You look as happy as possible. Everybody got it? And you say, I'm so angry right now. Hopefully, you got a laugh out of that. What does this teach us? Smiling's a metaphor. That's setting yourself up. That's your mindset. You're set up to be happy and you're smiling and you're probably like, well, now some random guy on a webinar is asking me to smile. I've hit rock bottom. But did you see what happened when you tried to go against the setup? Did you feel angry? The whole point is the way you frame that situation internally is going to dictate the outcome of the situation. Acknowledging that is going to help you in your personal and professional lives. For example, we put ourselves in the frame of mind to be agents of change when we conduct legislative writing, when we write to legislators. Now let's get into writing about writing to a legislator. Whether you go on to become a member or not, there's likely to be a day when writing a legislator is advantageous. It might be part of a grassroots letter campaign in a political thing that you like very much, or, in your professional life or your personal life. No matter what, it's going to be part of your life. Even if you hate politics, hate the law, hate the system, hate whatever you hate and whatever you feel, this is the system we've got, so it's best to have some of these tips down. I mentioned a handout. I actually have a lot of detail in the handout, and it memorializes everything I'm about to say. So in about a year, when you're like, hey, didn't that guy say something about this? Yeah, if you save it somewhere, you're going to have it to refer back to. All right, moving right in. Think of writing a politician, any politician, a legislator, or even an executive agency, like you're a stranger writing to them. That might be hard for some people. We don't often think of ourselves as strangers. We live with ourselves all day, every day. We know ourselves better than anyone. So the first step is moving outside our skin and realizing that we're usually a stranger to whoever we're writing. They usually have zero clue what our aspirations are, what our job is, how we talk, walk, look, and so on. Senator Jane Doe has no idea you cheated on a test in the 3rd grade, the same way she has no idea you're an award-winning court reporter or acclaimed author. So one of the things that I'd like to focus on is length. Generally, a first message to a legislator, you want it to be pretty short. Get this thing, whatever your topic is, on their radar. Get them to respond to you. Get their email or their staff's email so you can follow up as appropriate. If you write them a book report, I can tell you from experience that your book report is going to go in a drawer somewhere. And you risk not getting any feedback and not getting any response. Why am I mentioning this first? A lot of us spend our days taking down the record in silence, and then we go home and transcribe in silence. And then, when we finally get to make a statement, we have a lot to say. And that's okay. We're bright people with opinions and a lot to say. But in your political writing, especially for your first message, less can be more. And the less you write, the more focused your message is. Another thing, civility. You can't be rude. I know that we all have different feelings about politicians, legislators, and government agencies. But when you're writing a legislator, there's a very good chance that you need them to accept or reject a bill that's up for a vote, or you need them to sponsor a bill that you think would be good law. Guess what? If you start off your letter, Dear Senator Dipstick, you're not going to get a positive response. You can take yourself out of that stranger seat and make yourself an enemy very quickly. So even if your politician is from a political party you don't vote for or has made some decisions that you don't really like, generally it's a good time to put that aside, save it for election day, and find something nice to say. Let's talk a little bit about technical jargon. Let's go to pretend world really quick. Pretend I'm a doctor, and I'm going to write Senator Jane Doe a letter about my doctorness. Dear Jane Doe, listen up. I think we need to reduce the practicality of wealth upheaval for errors for the duration of myocardial care. Jane Doe or her staff member who reads that is going to go, oh, I'm sorry, how bad was it? Okay. Well, the point is, if you're using big words, or she's going to read that and she's going to say, okay, next. She's not going to read it. She might read something that sounds more like, Jane Doe, I'm writing because we need to put statutory limit on the can claim. I feel that damages should blah, 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 blah. When we apply this to court reporting, think about it this way. They have no idea what you do or the hours that it takes to make a transcript. If it's relevant to the conversation, give a simple explanation. If it's irrelevant to the conversation, cut that stuff out. There's a very old acronym for this called the KISS method. It stands for keep it silly. Keep it simple, silly. If that helps you remember it, use it. Remember it. Now I'm going to let you in on the greatest benefit of being a stranger to whoever you're writing to. They have no idea what you don't know. That can be very valuable information, especially for you to keep to yourself. If you write a letter that says, "Hi, I'm Jimmy Doe. I'm a student and I haven't ever written a senator before, so please excuse me if my letter is not fully clear, but I would really blah 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 blah." You're watering down your message. You're adding in a lot of details that detract from what you're asking them to do or trying to educate them on. "Hello, I'm Jimmy Doe and I have a message. Vote for Bill XYZ because it will make our state the greatest state of all time." Are you introverted? Some of you might be thinking that. Let's play pretend again. You're no longer Jimmy Doe or Jane Doe the introvert. You're now Jimmy Doe or Jane Doe, CEO of Advocate for Your Idea, LLC. Own it. Be executive. Don't be arrogant or cruel. Don't lie, but have the confidence to say, my idea matters. Look, I understand that not all students are young people, but as a young person, I was constantly questioning myself. I mentor people who have questioned themselves. I have coworkers who have been at the game of life a lot longer than me, and they've questioned themselves. A lawyer said this to me about 3 years ago, and I think it's a great closing. In our life and our work, we will almost never get validation. You'll almost never hear you're doing a great job. You just have to do the great job and know within yourself that you're doing what needs to be done. So question yourself. That's fine. But don't ever paralyze yourself out of fear. And don't be afraid to be afraid. Courage is being afraid and doing what you know is the right thing anyway. So, if you're about to venture into that next speed test, or if you're going to write a politician, or if you're going to move into the next phase of your career, you go ahead and you remember that you have a whole lot of company. History's filled with people who felt exactly the way you do now, and every day of your life is another line in what's happening in history. So now you have a baseline to understand legislation, why it matters, where associations fit in, and most importantly, why you're so important. So, and how you can craft your message in a way that gets it more attention. So take this knowledge forward, remember that there are people out there to help, and be the best you.